Hi, everyone. Today we are here to talk about sacred sex.
Sex can be difficult to talk about. Ed and I believe that marriage should be a passionate, lifetime love affair, but we can still feel uncomfortable discussing it.
hmm
So here we are talking about sex and sexuality with you. And why? If you don't hear this message from us, then maybe the only messages you are getting are from our society. A society that uses sex to sell, a society that has developed the hookup culture, and a society that is far from seeing sex as sacred.
Before we share our lived experience of sacred sex, we think it will make more sense if we share some attitudes that at times still prevent our lovemaking from being sacred.
I definitely grew up with the attitude that sex is for recreation. My upbringing was that fun only happens
Mm.
after all the work or chores are done. Because I see sex as fun, it is at the bottom of the list of serious obligations like work, family responsibilities, or chores around the house.
Mhm.
I find myself pushing Ed away and laughing it off if he even thinks of being frisky when we still have work to do. I know I don't do this intentionally, but my attitude has squelched intimacy and crushed our spontaneity. We end up being too tired or it's too late.
Mm. A big attitude for me to overcome is that sex is an activity. I see it as an it, or just another thing we do. The easiest way for me to see when sex has become an activity is the love versus lust test. Love is other-centered, and lust is self-centered. When I'm looking to get my needs met, technique and results like, was it good for you, become more important. I find my body is doing its thing almost on autopilot, making sex seem routine. When I'm like this, Betty can think that I just want her for my physical satisfaction, and she has shared how she has felt used and left empty at times.
Another attitude that I fall into is when I see sex as a reward for having been loving and attentive all day. This imposes an unrealistic expectation and is not unconditional love. With this attitude, I think we don't deserve to make love, and one day
Mm,
follows the next. We can go a very long time living more like brother and sister than husband and wife.
true. One attitude that persists from our earliest years of marriage was seeing sex negatively. I never linked God and sex. Imagining God involved in our lovemaking was like trying to make love in our parents' home. When sex is separate from God, it is a sure sign that negativity has crept back in for me.
A leftover from my upbringing were the warnings that boys only wanted one thing.
Hmm.
This actually instilled a fair and long lasting negative association with sex for me.
Mhm. So, if these types of attitudes prevent sacred sex, what makes sex sacred? You might be surprised to know the simple answer: communication. But we are referring to a third type of communication. Most know about verbal and nonverbal communication. The third type of communication is sexual communication. We call it an atmosphere of sexual delight. That is what makes my relationship with Betty different from my relationship with anyone else. I can be sweet, loving, caring, respectful, and attentive to anybody, but only with Betty do I have an atmosphere of sexual delight. This includes touches, words, winks, knowing gestures that we reserve only for each other.
We talk about our love making and tell each other what we want our body to communicate. Sometimes it's being thankful for something
Mm,
that happened recently, or affirming each other's attractive qualities, Or other times it is a way of asking forgiveness and wanting it to heal a brokenness. We can pray for each other and our desires. But the key to this communication requires my mind and heart to connect with what my body is saying.
So true. We believe that God created our way of loving, and God is love. So our lovemaking is spiritual and it's holy. We pray for you to know the exquisite joy of sacred sex. Bye for now. God bless you.
Aloha!